blankets and sit up straight and tall. So just straighten your legs out first. And then cross your legs the less familiar way. So I'm going to do that. And it's funny because it feels fine, but I don't go there. You know, I go to the more familiar place usually. So sitting in simple cross legs, then put your hands over your knees and use that action to lift your chest up. And then take your hands and more toward the middle of your thighs and just spread them across the thighs and draw your elbows down and your chest up. So this morning, my practice this week, because of what I've been hearing from people far and wide, is the feeling of blah, you know, what's going on. And I think that what we really need to do is increase our compassion and increase our openness of our hearts. So today you will be surprised at what we do, having just said that, but from the lowest part of your pelvis, right where the legs and the torso meet, you start drawing the skin of your front body up, and we really want to draw it up high enough that it reaches the edges of our collarbones. This is where the deltoids meet the collarbones, and so it's that really strong action through the armpits up into the collarbones, but then you have to hold the ribs back. And then bring your hands together in prayer and close your eyes, relax your face, soften your jaw. As you're here, of course, with your eyes closed, you're still in your body. Now you're in your body slightly differently because your eyes are closed and it's a very internal sensation you're feeling. So lift your spine up as tall as you can. You want to be on your sit bones, that's for sure. And if you can, just lean slightly forward a little bit with your spine and with your torso, and then come back over your hips with your shoulders and your chest and draw your buttock skin down. We don't want our lower back to complain here. We want to feel that the lower back is supported by the abdominal strength. So you're drawing the belly button toward the spine and up, and the sacrum is lifting up, and the spine is moving in, and the chest is broadening. So there's so many actions we're taking, but now we're here. Go in, prepare for yoga. Bow your head to your heart. Bring your hands down to your thighs. Open your eyes in front of your shins and bring your head back up. And then straighten your legs and draw your legs right together. So right now for a moment, we're in a little bit of a dandasana. And so you can look at your legs, and as you're squeezing the outside of your shins inwardly, then you can look at your knees and see if they look vaguely similar. Because for most people, one knee does a little different thing, and that's not good. We want them to look just the same. So now you're going to take your legs into the second cross, but that will be your favorite one. So because we started with the least familiar one. So now here we are, happy once again into our familiar cross of our legs. Bring your arms up. So stretch your arms up, but then as we say, let's start wide. Let's start wide only for the sake of your trapezius, your shoulders, and your neck. So what we want to do is stretch the outer skin on the outer armpits into the little finger side of the hand, and the inner armpits into the thumb, index finger mound area. And then we start drawing our hands up. But as you do, pay special attention to your trapezius, the skin on your shoulder blades moving down. So you don't want it to hike up. And you might notice that there comes a point where your neck starts to say, ooh, I need to lengthen. So lengthen your neck, trapezius down. If you can bring your hands as close, like right out of your shoulders, that's fine, but keep them where they feel right. And then hold your abdomen back and turn to, I'm mirroring you all this morning, turn to your right, just with your waist. Your arms don't change, your torso doesn't change, your face doesn't change. And we're just moving as we can. And then we're going to come back to center. I noticed when I do this, I really hold my abdomen firm because I know that my back appreciates that. Now we're going to go to the left. So again, you're not changing the relationship between your head, your upper arms, your shoulders, or anything like that. It's just coming from the waist and probably the lower ribs. And then you're going to come back and you're going to turn your thumbs forward and bring your arms down. Now straighten your legs once again. We're going to begin this morning with Siddhasana. And this is a pose that is familiar to us. We're going to take, I'm mirroring you. I want you to take your left foot, you hold the outer left foot, you hold the inner left knee, and you bring the foot down to the floor so that the top of the foot faces the floor and the heel is right in the center. Now, I'm going to speak to those of you with any kind of a knee issue. One thing you could do, and I do when my knee is bothering me, is one, sit up a little higher, and two, you could take the foot a little further away from the center of your body, if that would, because that's the less compression of your knee. But for the rest of us, we're drawing the foot as close to us as we can, and then we're going to take the other foot and we're going to put it on top so that the heels line up, and then the toes of the right foot kind of hide in between the calf and the thigh. Okay, and if you are a knee person or a foot person, see, I was thinking about this too, Celia, Helen, people, or Pam, anybody with a foot ankle issue ever, you might also prefer the option of taking the front foot in front of the foot that's behind, as opposed to on top of it. Okay, having given every cautionary action you could take, let's be here. And so now take your hands and place them over your knees so that the fingers kind of roll over your knee caps, and then hold on to your thumb and first finger. And breathe. Now we're not even in the pose yet. We still have some work to do. We want to take our torso skin, front body skin, from that lower area of the pelvis all the way up to the collarbones. And that takes, and your eyes are open, and that takes some awareness. It takes some body awareness, because I can get to the rib cage easily. I can get up into the chest with my mind. And then I think, oh, just a little more from the inner armpit up to the collarbone area. And then that's when my neck lengthens in the back. I don't know how you feel. Your head is level. Your eyes are looking towards your heart. Now we're in the pose. So now we are honoring the Buddha with our pose, with our lifted spine, our lifted heart, with our whole attitude toward our practice this morning. Lifting your chest, your heart. Now, turn your hands down and take your legs out of this configuration and just stretch them out. And then you kind of have a little more information on how your knees feel. If your knees are bothering you, you go to a higher lift, or your feet are in front of you and not one on top of the other. But if we're still together, now you're going to take your right foot to the center. The top of the foot is down. The other foot comes on top. The heels line up and the toes kind of hide between the calf and the thigh. And on this side, I have to do a little more to levelize my knees. So one thing that on the other side I didn't even have to say to myself, but now I have to say to myself, is take the thigh skin toward the knees. Don't be trying to draw the thigh skin back toward your hips. It's toward the knees. And then really sit up straight and tall and take your thumb and first finger together like we did before. Other fingers fan over the front of your kneecaps. And what you're trying to do here is lift your heart and expand both up and down your armpits. So you're lifting your inner armpits up toward the collarbones. And so the lift of the chest is significant. Just eyes are open, but gazing toward the heart. Now we're in the pose. Now turn your hands down and take your legs out of the Siddhasana and straighten your legs out. So in Siddhasana, we honor the Buddha and we emulate the Buddha because it provides a model for us, a way we could think or behave. We're going to do a pose now that is for the lower back. So I want you to have one blanket that you've got and roll it up into a tube. And you're going to place it toward the bottom part of the back part of your sticky mat. The other blanket could be for your head, you'll see why. And then the bolster is going to come beside me, and I'm going to show you what to do. It's very passive, but don't let that fool you. So when I go into it, I start on my hands and knees, and I'm going to take my left, you're going to take your left foot too, over the, actually, maybe I'll turn around this way so that when I'm facing you, you're on your left foot, I'm on my right. So your left ankle goes over that lift. You come down to the floor with your torso. You bring the bolster beside you, other blanket for your head, which you may or may not need. And you're going to take your shin over the, so that your knee and your foot are on this bolster, and your knee is at a right angle from your torso, and your shin is at a right angle from your thigh. And so that's good so far. And then you're going to turn down toward the floor with your torso. That is the challenge. So you're going to take your chest toward the floor, and then you're going to move your left pelvis to the left. So there we go. And now for me, I can rest with my head on my forearms, but there's also a blanket if you prefer that. Just be here for a moment. So what I want you to feel is that the skin from your armpit to your hip is long, so that you're getting this sensation of back body length and softness, and especially from the waist to the outer hip and the waist to the lower buttock. That's on your right side. So your right leg is in that right angle, and you're just here. Yeah, and you have to, it's a weird thing, isn't it? When I do this, I adjust my head about 25 times, and I think partly I'm adjusting my head because it doesn't feel quite right. And partly I'm adjusting my head because I'm really in contact with the floor. You know what I mean? You're looking right down, which is not our preferred state unless we're going to sleep. But now feel that hip on the right side. Feel that, what we would call side sacrum. So right down the edge of your side sacrum, you lengthen toward the bottom of your buttock. And then just be here for a moment, just for a moment. When you're ready to come up, then you come to your forearms, you roll over onto your left hip and sit up, and then you switch. You either are gonna take your props the other way or you're just gonna go the other direction. So now you're going to be on your, you're gonna be taking your right ankle over the lift, if you're using that, and you're taking your left knee over the bolster. And to get that at a right angle, you just notice whether it's going out from your hip and down from your knee, and then you turn toward the other side. So now your right pelvis is moving away from you, away from the knee. And your head comes down either to the blanket or to your forearms or whatever you're going to do. So now allow the skin on the left side body, just notice it. You can't help but notice it. And notice whether the buttock skin is hiking up towards your armpit. That's not what we want. We want the buttock skin to release away from the armpit. And breathe. And breathe. So maybe you're feeling a lot of sensation in your hip and your outer thigh. Maybe you're feeling that, maybe you're not. Whatever it is, you have to just see whether you're getting the length on that side of your body. And breathe. Now, come to your forearms and roll to the right hip side and come up. Now, I don't know, so we'll talk for 1 second. Here's what I want to say. On one side, when I do that, I feel so much sensation, I cannot tell you. It is like, wow, wake up, you know, I'm just wide awake. On the other side, I feel hardly anything. It's just very comfy. So let's try it without any support. So take the blanket and the bolster away, and then this time lie down on your stomach, and then take your right knee out from your right hip and your shin down from the knee. Turn your torso back toward the floor and move your left pelvis to the left. And then be here for a moment. So this is my easy side. So when I'm here, I'm just like, I do not know what the fuss is about, but if Mr. Iyengar says this is what I should do, this is what I will do. So what I want you to feel is the outer left hip, outer left sacrum skin, and the external rotation at the top of your right thigh. There is an external rotation, yeah. And now I'm just going to roll onto the left hip and come up, and I'm going to go to the other side. So this pose has got me thinking about compassion, because when I'm on my easy side, I have no idea there is a hard side. I mean, even though intellectually I know there is a hard side, I cannot feel it at all. But now I am on my hard side, and now my life is much more challenging, and I've got to be a lot kinder to myself. So, because I've got to really do something about this. I don't want my right hip and side sacrum to be so bunched up. And that's what this is about. It's lengthening from the armpit down to the outer hip. And just be here. And then just roll over, come to your forearms, roll over onto your right hip, and come back up. So that is a pose for the lower back. it's a therapeutic pose. Now we're going to take that bolster or blankets that we have, and we're going to put it on the back side of our sticky mat, and we're going to lie down on our right side. So when I lie down on my right side, I'm going to stretch my right hand away from my right foot, away from both feet. So we're going to do Anatasana Vishnu's couch, and the finger, so right now, I'm just going to put my head on my outstretched arm, and I'm going to put my other hand on my legs, on my hip. So, so just be here for a second. This pose has challenges for the shoulder area and for the hip area. Let's start with the shoulder area. If it's very extremely difficult for you to do what we're going to do next, you could stay like this. But if it's possible, you're going to take your right hand behind your right ear. So now your elbow is the main point of the pose, going toward the head side, and your feet are still stretching away. Now look down at your feet. Because see, I don't know if you've got this bolster behind you for support, but see, don't I look just like so relaxed? That's because I don't fear I'm going to fall over. I've got this bolster behind me. And so it gives me a chance to look at my feet and see. Sometimes we take our feet too far forward away from our hips. You want your feet coming directly out of your hips so that the elbow and the arches of the feet are lining up, and that's the energy and the stretch of this pose. Now, see, I mean, this is supposed to be comfortable because this is a couch pose. So you're going to take your left knee and bend it and put your left foot on the inner right leg. And so now you're going to feel your hip for sure. This is where the hip starts to talk to you, and maybe the knee. So if you've got any issues at all with grabbing your big toe, which we're going to do next, and you know, when I grab my big toe, what I do is I kind of lean back onto that bolster because it will help me straighten this leg without too much fuss. You can always use a belt. You can put a belt around your foot and hold on to that. That's perfectly fine. But now that I'm here, I'm going to really get back onto the side of my hip. And I'm not touching the bolster as much as I was. And both buttocks are lined up, hopefully. So your left buttock is the top buttock, your right buttock is down. And you just want to feel like you're lifting your left buttock off your right buttock and your leg is stretching. And breathe. Now I'm really feeling the extended leg foot. That's what you should feel. You should feel like your arch is kind of wide awake and curvy, which it is, and your elbows lining up with that. And there's this length through the underside of your torso, the right side of your torso. And breathe. And now bend that knee, bring that leg back, and now you kind of roll onto your stomach and come up and go to the other side. I'll just turn around. I really like the bolster behind me because I like to feel like this is a pose that has some ease to it. And when I'm on my own without anything, I can do it, but it's not as easy. So now you're on your left side. Your left hand is stretching away from your left foot. And then you just see how this feels. And then you're going to bend your left elbow and put your hand behind your ear. So that creates the bent elbow. And then just see where you're at with your feet, that they're coming out of your hip. So this is a very different side for me. Different side for the shoulders. So and you might feel that. And just notice how much space there is between the outside of the armpit and the floor. Like I could roll a small something under that. And Iyengar said, it should be flat against the floor, but that's definitely an anatomical issue for all of us. Now take your right knee, bend it, and put your right foot on your left extended leg. So really do extend your left leg now. You've got the foot there to sort of remind you that there is a bottom leg, and stretch it. So this bottom leg is not just on the floor, it's a big part of the pose. You're stretching into that leg, and then you're going to grab for the big toe if you can, or you're going to use a belt because that's fine too. And then you're going to lift that leg up. See, I leaned back a little bit because that made it easier for me to bend the knee and grab the foot. But now that I'm there, I'm trying to come onto my side body more so that I'm not leaning back onto the bolster quite as much. And I'm trying to lift it's your right buttock off the bolster and over the bottom buttock, which is now your left buttock. And breathe, and breathe. So you're stretching both legs, really, but you're stretching in the side body so much. And it's the armpit area is open, even if it's not quite down. And breathe. And then undo, and you roll over, you unhook your arm from your ear, and then you roll over. And then you come up. And so we're going to do that again. Now this time, we can try it without support. Yeah, let's try it without support. Because the support will be more appreciated, and you'll realize how helpful it is. Now, you can certainly use it if you want. And then you're stretching, now we're on our right side, and we're stretching our right arm as far away from us as we can. And then we're bending the elbow. But having done this, part of this pose is familiarity. Part of this pose is knowing what comes next and what the issues are. So we already kind of know that from using our prop. Now I'm more comfortable being here because it's fine. Your left hand, my right hand is in front of me, and I can just use that to sort of stabilize the part of the body I'm on, which is from the elbow to the outer foot on my left side, your right side. Now we're going to grab for the toe if we can, or use a belt. And then we're going to lift the leg up. That's when the challenge of this pose begins, where you're trying, if you can feel more stretch from the elbow to the foot as energy and support, then the lifted leg feels a lot safer. And of course, I'm trying to go back onto my upper buttock. Do you know what I'm saying? Yes, you do. We all feel the same way. You know, that upper buttock doesn't want to stay up. I'm trying to lift it up with my foot. I'm trying to actually lift the buttock up using the length of my leg, that upper leg that is. And breathe. See, this time I'm not quite so comfy. I don't feel like I'm on a couch. I feel like I'm on a precipice, honestly. So, but that's a good thing. Breathe. Now, undo the leg, undo the arm, roll over onto the stomach, and come up and go to the other side. So now we're going to be on our left side, and we're stretching our left arm away from our left foot. So before you go anywhere, just see that that's all lined up. And then on this side, and maybe this is true for you, my top leg, this is my top leg, I almost have to put it on the floor in order to get my elbow bent and my hand behind my ear. But then once I get there, I can extend. Oh, this is a completely different side. This is so interesting, isn't it? This is why I've been thinking about compassion. I honestly can't remember how easy it was on the other side, because right now I feel like this is taking every ounce of my will, of my energy to stay focused. bend your knee, put your foot on the top of the thigh, and stretch from the elbow to the foot. And if you can grab for the big toe, you do that, and you lift up with that leg, and you try to stay on the left side. Your right leg is up, sorry. I'm just, if you could see my hip, it's just, I'm sure you have similar feelings of you're just really kind of ready to collapse, but don't. Stretch through the elbow to the foot, other leg is up, up, bend the knee, bring the leg down, straighten the arm, turn over to the side, and come up. Now we're going to take we've got that blanket that we did roll up for our ankle if you did. And so now I want you to roll up the blanket again into a tube. And then we're going to lie down on our back, and we're going to put the blanket, the tube, under our shoulders. We're going to see where it goes. So I'm going to lie down, and I'm going to have for me, it's kind of the shoulder blade to the middle of the end of the shoulder blades, the bottom of it to the middle. And then I hold on to my head for a minute so I can see my feet and see if my hips and my legs are lined up, because sometimes people's feet wander to one side or the other. And then I'm going to lengthen my neck as I put my head down. So if when you put your head down, you feel like your neck got a little scrunchy, then you want to put something under your head. Stretch your arms up over your head if you can, and press your thighs down. So press your thighs down and stretch your arms up. And then, now we're not going to do anything for a second while we feel our thighs. And I mean our hamstrings. Because on one side, do you feel the hamstring differently than you do on the other side? So you want to try to get as much of the back of your legs down as you can. And stretch your arms up and press your thighs down. And then take your arms over your head, thumbs toward the floor, thumbs down on the floor, fingers facing each other, palms of the hands facing each other, fingers pressing away from our feet, and our feet are resolute. So you want to feel like your inner metatarsals, the balls of your feet, are stretching away from your center body. So the center body is where the spine is, where the spinal column is, and we want to lengthen that here, even as we're stretching our arms. And then bring your arms back up, and bring your arms down, and then bend your knee and roll over to the side, right side, and come up. And so take the support away now. The only support now, we're going to do downward facing dog, would be a chair, if we needed a chair. So as we know with a chair, we put our hands on the chair and we step our feet back. So this is a chair dog, and this is a wonderful pose, and you're welcome to do this pose. You would do this pose if you felt like your shoulders, or your wrists or something were too impacted. So come to your hands and knees. So your hands are a little ahead of your shoulders. Your knees are slightly behind your hips. Your toes are turned under. And before we go anywhere, I want you to see whether both arms are coming out of both shoulders, or if one hand is a little further to the side than the other. The other thing I want you to notice is whether the elbow creases, the eyes of the elbow, are facing each other. So we want them to face each other through this entire pose. Press your hands down, lift your chest forward. So you're drawing your chest, your armpits up into the collarbones, and then hold your abdomen firm and lift up into downward facing dog. So downward facing dog now, we're stretching through the inner arms as much as possible. So from the index finger mound, now if you're on a chair, this is just the same. You're stretching from the inner hand toward the hips. So that's what you're doing. And it's through the inner arms toward the collarbones that you feel a lot of stretch on the arms, and then that reflects into the torso, which lengthens away from that action. So my knees are bent, my heels are up, my arms are strong, and my triceps are going to hug in toward each other. So I want to feel like there's almost a squeezing action of my triceps moving toward each other to stabilize this pose. You can do that on the chair as well. Now bend your knees and come down. Child's pose. Take your knees wide. Stretch your arms out in front of you or behind you, whichever is your preference right now. It's the stretch, it's the softness and the stretch of the back body that we're after right now. So your knees are wide, and of course, if you have knee problems, you're putting something behind your buttocks, like a blanket, or you're coming onto your back and squeezing your knees in. Yeah, that's right. So, child's pose. Adho Mukha Virasana if your arms are forward. If your arms are forward, that is the Adho Mukha Virasana version. If your arms are back, that's just what we call child's pose. And now come up. So the instructions I just gave you are intended to help people whose elbows bend in downward facing dog. So let's come back to our setup, which is our hands are on the floor, our elbow creases are facing each other, and just notice that they are both the same. That in this pose, the forearms roll inwardly and the upper arms roll outwardly. It's considered like squeezing a sponge. So your forearms stay focused on the index finger mound so that they roll inwardly. And so just have that. Notice that the elbow creases are facing and hug the triceps in toward each other. We're not up in the pose yet. We're just practicing the arm part. So now lift your arms up lift your armpits up off your shoulders as high as you can and bring your chest slightly forward. And then keep your triceps engaged. Come into the pose. So your heels will be up to start. Your knees will be bent to start. And so keep your knees really quite bent and try to take your torso, your front body toward your thighs. So it's as if you're trying to draw your armpits even closer to your knees, but you're lengthening up toward the collarbones with your inner arms. Your outer arms are squeezing in. And then if you can straighten your legs, you can do that, but keep your armpits moving toward your knees and pull your thighs away from your torso. So your thighs move away. Now you can start descending your heels a little bit. Breathe, breathe, and then bend your knees and come down. Child's pose, or lie down on your back and squeeze your knees in. So either one is great because it's just a way of giving ourselves a little bit of rest before we go forward. Good, now come up again. Dog pose. So downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So our hands are down, not under our shoulders. If they were under our shoulders, that would be a little too narrow a dog pose. And then our knees are just slightly behind our hips. That gives us room for our torso to lengthen. Notice your elbow creases. Notice your inner arms really lifting up. Notice your outer arms squeezing in. Your neck doesn't do it, your neck really is not part of the squeezing action. Relax your neck. Come up into downward facing dog and keep the knees bent as you draw the armpits toward your knees. Draw the armpits toward your knees and then lift your sit bones up even more. Keep the triceps hugging in. Stretch your legs as straight as you can. So that in the whole front body now, from the chest, which is lifted, toward the pelvis, which is lengthened, just start descending your heels any amount. That may not happen. Whatever works. If you're on the chair, you're doing all these same things. All these same things. It's a beautiful option, really, to have a chair for this. Breathe, breathe, and then come down. And now we're going to do some kind of an inversion. So in my all levels class, the inversions have options. Shirshasana, headstand is one, or dolphin pose is the second one. If you're doing dolphin pose as an option for headstand, your head does not ever touch the floor. Your forearms are down, your buttocks are up, you walk in, and your head does not come to the floor. You're lifting your shoulders up. It's training for Shirshasana. The other options are handstand or legs up the wall, which I really like, legs up the wall. All these four options, which are Shirshasana or dolphin pose, or handstand, or legs up the wall, they all have the same thing in common, which are legs are up over the head. And that's the purpose of an inversion, obviously. So find the inversion that's going to work best for you, because every day is different too. You might feel like it's not going to be as easy for you to do Shirshasana today, or maybe you'd prefer to just rest and take your legs up the wall. But if you're going to go into Shirshasana, do that and press your forearms down and lift your shoulders up. So in Shirshasana, in headstand, our head is on the floor and our shoulders are lifting strongly up. So I'm just looking at you on the screen and appreciating everybody's attempts here. Whatever it is you're doing. If you're in Shirshasana, legs are straight up and together. In Shirshasana, you want to feel like your legs are moving toward each other in a really integrated way, and the hips are pinning, and the inner legs are stretching up, and the forearms are pressing down, and the neck feels long. It isn't that your head's not on the floor or bearing weight. Your head does bear some weight, but your neck doesn't, because the neck vertebrae are being extended thanks to the shoulders lifting away from the forearms. So that's a very important part of the pose. If you're in dolphin pose, you know that too, because that's all the same. If your legs are up the wall, you are in a beautiful position to feel the effects of having your legs up. It's calming. And Shirshasana is calming too. Yeah, if you're in headstand, that's great. If you're in handstand, of course, you're going up and down. And if you're in legs up the wall, you are appreciating the inversion and what it does for the mind. Yeah, certainly BKS felt that the mind is so benefited by this pose, both for mental acuity and for stress relief. So we need it all, don't we? Yeah. Now, if you're in headstand, if you're in Shirshasana, press your forearms down really strongly and carefully start coming down. So it's just a very slow descent, but it's aided by the forearms really pressing. And then you come down, and if your legs are up the wall, bend your knees and roll over to the side. If you're in handstand, or you can come down now. And be in child's pose. So you're either in child's pose or you are in squeezing your knees in from the back. Yeah, both are great. Both are just great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're in child's pose, you're lengthening your hips away from your hands, and you're just feeling the length of your back body. If you're lying on your back, you're feeling your back body relax, of course, because that's the whole purpose of that. So now everybody, whether you're in child's pose or not, roll over onto your back and squeeze your knees in now. So roll onto your back body and take your knees in toward your chest and hold your right knee in and stretch your left leg out onto the, away from you, but not to the floor. So let it hover about an inch or two off the floor and press through the foot into the space beyond. So you want to feel like the foot has a lot of energy, and that's the left foot. You're pressing with it, and your right knee is coming towards you in opposition to that action. And then bring your left knee in and stretch your right leg out. And so your right leg is stretching out and hovering from the floor a couple of inches. So you want to feel like your right leg, which is extended, has a lot of energy and direction. The direction of this pose is toward the foot, you know, really, toward the extended foot. And the gravity in this pose are your buttocks and your knee that's pressing towards your chest. Now go to the first side. So now bring the right knee and stretch the left leg out. And stretch it out and away from the floor about an inch. And energy abounds. So you're really pressing to the foot. And now lift that left foot straight up toward the floor, toward the ceiling, toward the ceiling. So you're really stretching it up now. You're stretching it up. Good. Now bring it back into your chest. And stretch the other leg straight and about an inch or two from the floor with a lot of energy and activity, and the direction is toward the foot. And then breathe and bring that leg up. So now that leg goes straight up, and you know, you just feel what you feel and breathe. But it's the leg that's bending toward the chest. That's the one that is holding the pose. The other leg is what Mr. Iyengar would always call the donkey. It's the showpiece, you know, but what would make that possible? The other leg. Now bring that knee back into the chest and breathe and roll over to the right side and come up. Now I'm gonna move my camera. We're gonna do a standing pose or two. And let's see if, even up more, maybe? It's hard to know. I'm my own production manager here. So I do it all. And do I do it well? I don't know. I'm trying. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, what I want you to do is stand in Tadasana for a moment. Tadasana is our stabilizing, centering, comforting, kind of contemplative pose, especially if you think of it that way. So with your legs drawing toward each other, your outer shins drawing toward each other, lift your chest up, your heart up, your armpits up toward the collarbones. And then just notice the weight on your feet, or the weight on your feet for 1 second as it moves toward the other foot. Pick your right heel up and lengthen it away from the metatarsal. And pick your left foot up and lengthen it away from the metatarsal. And squeeze your legs inwardly toward each other, and bring your arms up over your head. So stretch your arms up and your feet down. So now I'm sure you feel a little more centered, because once you bring your arms up, your feet just know what to do. And that is press down firmly and consciously, and with as much spreading action across the metatarsal as you can. Turn your thumbs forward, bring your arms down. Tadasana. Now we're going to have 2 blocks. So one's going to go to either side. You can always have one block and move your block, or you can not have any blocks, but that would mean you have very long arms. So before we use those blocks, I'm going to take my feet wide, so my feet aren't really touching the blocks. I'm going to take my feet wide, and I'm going to spread the balls of my feet. So you do have arches, and the arches are lifted, the inner ball of the foot is down, the heel is down. Put your hands on your hips and squeeze your elbows toward each other so that your armpits really open, and then come halfway down. Put your hands on the floor and stretch your hips stay right over your heels. You're not coming forward with your hips. Your hands stretch out in front of you. And now what I want to do is I want to just rest my hands. So I'm not pushing too much with my hands. Now you might be, because I know everybody's different. But for me, my hands are bearing less weight, my legs bearing a lot more. And I'm stretching through the inner arms. So now I feel the inner arm stretch down into the thumb mound, the index finger mound. And I'm just going to stretch my inner armpits up toward my collarbones. So my inner arms are going to get longer. And that does increase the hamstring stretch a bit. So you might not like that, but you can try. And breathe. And now bring your hands back. And bring your feet in a little bit, heel, toe, and bring your hands back to your hips and stand up and bring your feet back to Tadasana. Tadasana. Again, now this is our second Tadasana, so it might feel better, it might still feel a little bit like you have to organize it. And by organize it, I mean I start with my feet. So feet are broad, feet are down, legs are strong. Action in the thighs, very strong action. Bring your hands in front of your chest, bend your knees, step your feet wide. You can jump if you like. And then put your hands on your hips for a second. I just want to make sure that my feet are lined up. What I mean is, I want my feet to be the same distance away from the edge of the sticky mat. You know, you don't want one foot ahead of the other, and sometimes you don't know. And then stretch your arms and just feel what you feel side to side. So for me, I feel a lot on one side of my leg, and the other side is just like nothing. Everything is just fine. So we're going to turn our left heel out a little bit, and we're going to turn our right leg 90. And then we're going to bring our attention to our torso, which unwittingly has turned toward our right leg. I'm mirroring you. And so I'm going to take my pelvis in my awareness, and I'm going to roll it back so that now my torso is centered. My legs are turned, my torso is centered, my arms are spreading from my heart toward my fingertips, and my back leg is strong and is going to be there for me as I extend my right arm down, out and down. I'm going to bring it to my shin. I'm going to bring my other hand to my waist. You can bring your hand onto the block. We'll use the block for other things. You could use it now. Some people have been telling me, though, and I agree, the shin feels fine. You know, you can hold on to the outer shin. What we're trying now, my best advice to you is lead with your chest. So your chest is lifting, lifting, lifting. You're lifting your chest. You're lifting your chest. And the triangle is between your right outer armpit and your right hip. So lengthen there. That means you have to lift your chest more. And then the other part of the triangle is the hip to the foot. So you're lengthening the outer right leg too. And then bring your left arm up. And breathe. Trikonasana, triangle pose. Now bring your left arm down and come up a little bit and bend your right knee into a square, or the best square you can. And you're going to take your right hand on top of your right thigh, and you're going to press it down. I'm putting weight there. Yeah, it really helps. And then the back leg is stable. And the left arm is going to stretch away. So my torso is facing away from my right leg, your right leg, and your left arm is stretching. And feel your feet and breathe, and then stretch your other arm, Virabhadrasana 2, and look out over your right hand. Your left hand is stretching away from you and breathing. Good. Now, keep the square with your knee and bring your right hand down to the block that is either near you or you have grabbed, and put your right hand down and roll your chest open and your elbow back. Now, one thing I'm noticing about myself, and so I'm sure I'm not the only one, is it's a tendency to come out of the square. And this is my easy side. I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. But I want to really press my heel down. Now, stretch your left arm up to broaden your chest. Press your left leg back and extend between the left leg and your left arm, Parsvakonasana. And breathe. And then you're going to come back up, straighten your leg, turn your feet towards center. How was that? I can't hear you, you're all muted. But I can hear the silent screams, you know. Hands on the hips for a minute. So, boy, after that, I have to feel like I have to kind of center myself again. That was quite a lot of activity to one side. Now I'm going to center myself. So just breathing, lifting your chest, lifting your heart, stretching your arms, stretching your arms. Take your right heel out slightly. Turn your left leg 90. And then it never fails, even though I know I'm a good student and you are too, it does happen that my torso starts leaning or moving toward the front leg. I don't want that. I'm going to move the pelvis back so that my torso is moved away from the left leg, my right leg. Now I'm going to extend my left arm out, your left arm out down to the shin. Other hand on the waist if you like. Before you go any further, lift your chest, lift your chest, lift your chest. Breathe. Good. What I'm seeing I really like. Bring your hands down. See, if you lift your chest, it does so much for the pose. But it isn't just your chest, is it? It's that back leg. That back leg is so strong, the chest moving away from it. And then I can lower my hand, but only as it feels right. You know, I haven't gone too far too fast. Right arm up. Stretch your right arm up. And breathe. And breathe. Chest is lifted. Chest is lifted. Now I'm going to bring this hand down, my top arm down. I'm going to come up a little bit and I'm going to bend your left knee, my right knee into a square. Whoa. And I'm using the pressure, and it's right at the top of the leg where the leg meets the torso, that it sort of bunches and lifts up. It doesn't help. So it's better to come into the square as best you can. So I'm pressing down and my right arm stretches away. So yeah, that's good. See, it gives you the basic shape of the pose. With the weight on the top of your leg, you can actually be here a little bit. It really pushes weight into your heel. Now stretch your other arm. And then look out over your left arm. And your right arm is stretching away from that. And I know it's hard not to come out of the square, but try to stay in the square and breathe. Virabhadrasana 2. And now I'm going to put my back arm on my waist again as I bring your left hand down to the block. So I'm in a square and my right arm stretches up. So my right arm stretches up and I'm pushing back into that back leg. You know, I mean, because it feels that would help. And then I'm stretching my arm away, your right arm away from your right leg, away from your right foot. Left knee for you is bent, and breathe. and breathe, and breathe. And then carefully come back up. So I straighten my front leg, I turn my toes in, and I walk my feet back together. So very definitely, I feel different side to side. One side is a lot of sensation. I wouldn't say pain because pain suggests injury. I would say sensation, intense sensation. And the other side is just like, whatever. So that's why I wonder about feeling what other people feel. My hips are good sports. I think they want to help each other. Put your hands on your hips, lift your chest up, extend your arms down, Tadasana, Tadasana. Now separate your feet wide again. So making sure that they're level, and bring your hands down to the floor again and stretch your arms up. This is what we call half dog pose, half prasarita. The legs are in prasarita, the arms are in dog pose, the hips remain over the heels. In other words, I'm not bringing my torso forward, I'm holding my hips back, and I'm breathing. So I just want to feel the length of my inner arms, honestly. It's my inner arms and my outer arms squeezing in a little bit. My arms aren't working too hard. It's just that I get this opportunity to lengthen through the chest, through the arms, into the hands. Breathe. Breathe. And then walk your feet back. Walk your feet back. And with your hands on the floor, turn your right leg to the right and put your right hand on the block and come to Trikonasana. So Trikonasana now feels a little different, but lengthen from the armpit to the hip on the right side, on the left side. You're lengthening from the outer foot into the armpit on the left side. Left arm stretched up, and breathe, and breathe. And then bring that hand down, bend that knee. This time, we're gonna go to Parsvakonasana. Stretch your arm up. Your left arm up, extend your left arm away from your left leg. Push your left leg away from your left hand. Extend, extended side plank pose. And breathe. And then bring your arm back up, straighten your leg, turn your foot in, bring your hands down to the floor. Stretch your arms out in front of you as far as you can. Breathing, breathing, breathing. So here I feel like I'm getting the best of all worlds. My legs are strong, my arms are lengthened, but there's not too much weight into my hands, wrists, and shoulders. Now I'm going to bring my hands back, and I'm going to turn my left leg 90, and I'm going to bring my hand onto the block, and I'm going to straighten my left leg, your left leg, into Trikonasana, and I'm going to stretch up with my upper arm. So this pose is triangle pose. Your chest is lifted. Good, that looks nice. What I'm seeing looks really nice. It should feel nice. You're opening across your heart, but you're also lifting your heart. So you're broadening and lifting your heart. You don't even think about that sometimes, but that's a big part of this pose. And breathe. And then you're going to bend your left knee into a square. Keep stretching. You can bring your hand down, and then you can bring your arm up and stretch it over your head, away from your right leg. So just as big a stretch on the right side body as you can get. Left knee is bent. And then undo the top arm. Turn the front foot forward again. Stretch your arms out in front of you. So your arms are just stretching out in front. Then you're going to bring your hands back. Then heel, toe, heel, toe. You're going to come back toward your feet toward each other. Hands back by your hips. Lift your chest, carefully come up. Tadasana. Okay. Downward facing dog. So come to your hands and knees. Come to your hands and knees. And come into the pose. Come into your pose. We know this pose so well, don't we? But today what we've been paying attention to is that our elbows don't bend and that our inner arms are long and our outer arms are strong. So that's a big part of this pose. The other part of this pose are the legs, of course. So it's really dependent on your arms and your legs. So now, with your arms as long as you can make them, inner arms as long as you can make them, then just, you can bend your knees, no problem if your hamstrings need that. But pull the quadriceps away from your hands. Feel like your quadriceps are going one direction and your hands are pressing the other direction. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Breathe in this pose. Now we're in the pose. We do a lot of actions to get into a pose. Now we're there. Breathe. And bring your knees down. Come out of pose. Now we're going to need 2 blankets at least. And maybe we're going to need a chair instead. So we're going to do Marichyasana 3, which requires the one leg straight, one leg bent. I'm wondering for some people, if for the reasons of their knees or something else, they might prefer to do a chair twist. And so if you were going to do a chair twist, we know this one. We would sit sideways on the chair. And we would put our hands on the back of the chair, and we would lift our spine up, and we would turn toward we're going to start turning to the right. That's what I'm showing on my own body. So this is an option, and it's a great option, because if you get to a pose that your knee is bothering you too much, it doesn't help. The pose doesn't do what it's supposed to do if you're in pain. So now I'm going to have 2, but I'm good for this one. So I'm going to stretch my legs out. Oh, I'm going to come back to a different way. Okay, legs are stretched out. And we're back to the familiar Dandasana pose. So this is Dandasana. Your buttocks are on the blanket and a little bit of your hamstrings are on the blanket. But you're not sitting back so far that you're like too comfortable. You're not exactly perched either. You've got a little bit of hamstring on that blanket. Then you're going to roll onto one hip, and you take this back of your leg and buttock, and you move it away. So you're just trying to get your sit bones really conscious, and your thighs pressing down, and breathe. And then you're going to bring your right knee up. So if you're in the chair, you're taking your hands to the back of the chair and you're moving, your legs are to the side and your hands are to the back and you're twisting to the right. The rest of us are going to take our left hand onto our right knee and then sit up as tall as you can. So the most important part of this pose, it's a twisting pose, is keeping your spine extended. If your spine collapses, you're rubbing your vertebrae together. We don't want that. We want to separate the vertebrae as much as we can, one from another, stretch out through the extended left leg. And I'm really stretching through the inner leg. I really feel like that's important. And I'm going to take with my hand on my knee, I'm going to take my left chest toward my right thigh, your left chest toward your right thigh. So we're twisting already. So my other hand's behind me, and you could have a block if you needed it behind you. so that you would feel like you're really sitting up and you're turning. Then with my torso turned, I'm going to lean toward my thigh. So before I was turning it and I wasn't so close. Now I'm going to get close and I'm going to take that knee over the midline a little bit. Now I have to switch hands. Your right hand, my left hand, has to press the knee as I take the elbow, your left elbow over the right knee, or you're going to hold on to it with the crook of your elbow. So you've either got the elbow over the knee or you're holding onto the knee with the elbow. But here my knee is across the midline and I'm leaning toward my thigh and I'm taking my arm down as low as I can. And then I'm going to bring the knee back up and take my hand behind, and I've already started a twist. So now I'm really in the pose. And the action of the pose is to twist. So I'm using the extended leg, that's your left leg, with a lot of conscious awareness as I look at it. I look at it and I turn away from it with my right shoulder. With my right ribs, with my right chest. I turn away from the left leg. I'm trying to stay as tall as possible, and I'm breathing. And then undo. And straighten that leg. And bring the other leg in. Now it's your left knee that's bent. So you can see why I'm giving the option of the chair, because this is quite a close connection between your calf and your thigh. If you have a little knee problem and you don't want to use the chair, you could always take your foot away from your hip a little bit to give your knee a little less compression. But I'm going to bring my knee close, my foot close, because I can. And then I'm going to sit up straight and tall. So now with your right hand on your left knee, you start turning your right chest toward your left thigh. And you have to do that with such an extended spine. And breathe. And then, so I only go as far as I can go, obviously. But then I'm going to lean toward my thigh. So I'm going to try to almost bring my chest, my right chest onto my left thigh. And then I'm going to hold on to the knee and I'm going to move it across the midline as I take my elbow to the outside. So I'm in between a rock and a hard spot, that's for sure. And on some side, one side's different than the other, but I'm trying to get there. Your left hand goes behind, your right elbow is bent over your left knee, and you're going to look at your right leg. You're going to look at your right leg and you're going to move your left shoulder away from that, your left ribs away from that, your left waist away from that. You stay really centered on the left foot, the left knee, and you turn away from all that with your torso, but you don't take your torso away from the thigh. You know, that's what the tendency. We don't want to. And then undo and straighten your leg. And bring your right leg in. Marichyasana 3. If you now wish you had used a chair, or if you think, oh, I'd be better off with a passive twist, you could lie down on your back, squeeze your knees in, and roll your knees side to side. If you're still up for another attempt at Marichyasana 3, this is what we'll do. Same thing as before. Your extended left leg has a lot of energy and awareness. And now just take your right knee across the midline and take your elbow over the knee, and then start turning your chest away from your right leg. So you're just turning best you can. But here's the thing. You're trying to get your left armpit as close to your right outer knee as you can. That, for me, is the biggest challenge. And so far, we're still working on it. But I'm leaning toward that. And then I start expanding sideways with my ribs, my waist, my chest, my shoulders. And I'm still looking at my extended left leg. And breathe. But then I'm going to take my head and I'm going to turn it so that it's in line with my chest. So Mauritiasana 3, no clasp, not right now. And just an elevated spine with a twist and a lot of breathing and awareness. And then come back to center. And try the other side. So now the other side. So you'll notice that time I didn't turn my chest first. I moved my knee in first, took my elbow, then I started turning my chest. You can practice at home different ways of getting into this pose, what's the best for you. So both are fine for me, but I'm taking the knee across the midline. Then I've got to turn my torso. I've got to turn my chest. I'm going to turn your right chest toward that left thigh. And then elbow, you try to get the outside of the armpit as close to the knee as possible. In other words, elbow a little bit lower. Your other hand comes behind. You bring your knee up to the center again, and that's the twist. And you look at your outstretched right leg. And breathe. And then we're going to take our eyes away from that front leg and we're going to move it so that it lines up with the center of our chest. So the chin and the center of your chest. And lift both sides of your chest and breathe. And then undo. Now we're going to have a block or 2 blocks. We're going to have 2 blocks. We have 2 blocks, so we might as well use them. Here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to tell you. First of all, we've got a block, and I'm just going to show you some options. So we've got a block, and it's turned sideways, and we're going to lie down on our back, and we're going to take that block sideways at level 2 under our sacrum. And then we're going to bring our ankles as close to our hands as we can, Chatuspadasana. So this is one option. The second option is to lift your hips up and take the block 1 level higher to level 3. So that's the second option. Now here's so come down, if you're there, just come down for a second. I want to show you something else that you can do. You can take your block and you can put it underneath you at the lowest level. And then you can take your other block and you can put it under your buttocks on top of the first block. Now, what's the difference between this and what we did before? It gives you a little more stability. So you might like this. Come into one version of this or another. You're either on the first level block with your knees bent, you're on the second level block with your knees bent, you're on the third level block with your knees bent, or you're on the 2 blocks, whichever you like, and then you're going to try to get your feet close to your hands. Now this isn't going to work if you have knee problems, so don't use a belt, or use a belt anyways. You'd have to come out and get one. But hold on to your heels if you can. So your knees are going to go one direction. Your chest is going the other. So you should feel right now like your shoulder blades are not on the floor, but they're lifted off the floor and perpendicular to the floor. So your shoulder blades should feel like they're pointing straight up, and the chest is straight, coming toward your chin, thanks to the action of the shoulder blades. Now, you can release your hands, move your feet out a little bit, lift your right leg up. So now your right leg is up, your hands, let's talk about your hands. Your arms could come into saguaro cactus beside you. Your hands could be like Shavasana. Your hands could be closer to you, palms turned down, whatever is right for you. I'm going to choose the saguaro cactus. So I'm stretching my heel up. Then I'm going to bend the knee in toward my chest, and I'm going to bring it down to the floor. And I'm going to bring my right knee into my chest, or the other side. I'm still talking as if I'm nearing you, it doesn't matter. And then straighten that leg. So whatever the second leg is for you, stretch that and stretch up through the heel. Now, interestingly enough, when you stretch up through the heel on the one leg, the other knee just acts like nobody's paying any attention. Try to keep your knee stable over your ankle on the other side. In other words, you're still at attention with the bent knee, thigh, and foot, and shin. Now, bring both legs out. If you can, you bring both legs out. When you do, you feel almost immediately more pressure into your throat, I bet. And you really do want that, and you want your chest to come over your throat. When your chest comes over your throat, you are really creating the reflex for relaxation. It's called the baroreflex. It's a scientifically studied, understood fact that when you're reclining with your buttocks up like this and your chest far over your throat, your brain well, first of all, your heart relaxes, it has to, and your brain relaxes. Breathe. Now take your legs wide, if you can. Stretch through the heels, so you're using the legs only as wide as feels good, and then bring your legs back up. And breathe. So legs are up, chest is lifted, chest is coming toward the chin and over the throat. Breathe. Now that I'm here, and this is what I always do, and so I just want to say, if you're not doing it, you might like it. I really take my inner legs toward each other as strongly as I can and stretch up through the inner feet. I try to, even though my legs are up, I try to create this feeling of squeezing inwardly with my legs and my inner legs especially long. And breathe, chest is lifted. So there's energy in the legs. Of course, you can't lift your legs up if you don't have energy in them, but I'm creating more energy. And then I'm lifting my chest away from that. Now, bend your knees and 1 foot at a time, bring your feet down to the floor. So now this is the more traditional Setu-bandha. Setu-bandha Sarvangasana. This is part of the shoulder stand family. And what we just did was Setu-bandha Sarvangasana with legs in Viparita Karani. So we have all sorts of ways to create the feeling of shoulder stand without actually doing that. Now we're going to, so I've got the 2 blocks, you may only have 1. So if you have 1 block, you're at the high level, you're going to come to the second level. If you're at the second level, you're going to come to the first level. If you're like me and you have 1 block on top of the other, you're going to lift your buttocks and you're going to take 1 block away. And then come down to the remaining block or to the lower level. And when you come down to the lower level, just let the contents of your abdomen relax. So feel like all through the front of the pelvis, all through the soft skin between the waist and the ribs, all that is just very soft and broad. And now we're going to come down to the floor with our buttocks. So we lift our buttocks up, we take the support away, and we lengthen our lower back until we're down onto our buttocks. But you should still feel, with your knees bent, you should still have a little curve in your lower back, little curve. And now Shavasana. So for Shavasana, you could take your blanket and put it under your head and relax your body into a traditional Shavasana. You could have a bolster under your knees. You could have your legs up the wall. You could be in Viparita Karani. We have all sorts of ways of being in this final pose. In this final pose, whatever your choice, The feeling is of acceptance of what has just happened. Acceptance, appreciation, broadness, everything you can imagine. Just lie down on your back. Take your pose, whatever it is, and just spread the energy across your chest, into your hands, across your ribs, down to the floor, across your pelvis, down to the floor. The action in Shavasana is more horizontal than it is vertical. The energy is moving sideways from the center sideways. So from the center of the chest sideways to the armpits, to the arms, to the hands. From the center of the ribs to the sides of your ribs down toward the floor. Right across the pelvis from the center to the side. As you're doing that, your back body is just so stable and so soft. It's as if your back body is just absorbing all of the skin, flesh, and bones that you have to relax. But the back body is accepting all that. Your brain, soft, relaxed. Your eyes closed, soft. Everything about this pose is soft. Not only is it horizontal, it is soft. It is soft. Your tongue rests on the lower palate. Everything is relaxed. The energy in your body is now dissipated from the center to the edges, toward the edges of your torso, toward the soles of your feet, toward the crown of your head. The energy is just softly moving into every corner of yourself and nourishing it, nourishing your body. Just breathing. Just breathing. And breathing is certainly, as we know, a real joy. Just feel the exhalation. Feel the exhalation especially, and feel the softness of it. Just for a moment, bring your awareness to your inhale. And then just softly, slowly exhale from start to finish without any kind of a break. Just soft, slow exhalation. Just soft, slow. And then when you're done with the exhalation, just bring your inhalation back in as a continuous, unstopped flow of oxygen into your body from start to finish of the inhalation. It should feel soft. You're not doing too much. You're just bringing more awareness to your breathing. And then when you're at top of that, just exhale your breath out. So just feel like your exhalation is long, slow, soft. And then just return to normal breathing. And notice the difference between normal breathing and what we just did, which was pranayama. So every shavasana I do in my own practice, I do a bit of pranayama. I mean, in addition to my pranayama practice, but in shavasana, I try to do some breaths that are pranayama breaths and just try to use the controlled breathing just for a couple breaths, not more. But now you're in normal breathing. Just normal breathing. Now bend your left knee and roll over to the right side. So just roll over to the right and rest with your head on your arm. And then just be there for a second. Just be there. Because we were in Shavasana, so we're not coming up too quickly. Now as you look down toward the floor, use the pressing and the strength of both hands and arms to push up and come back up. Namaste. I bow to the goodness in you, and I know how good you are. So I'm going to come in and mute you.